If you're just joining us or you're new here, we want to introduce ourselves. My name is Lauren.
And I'm Natalie.
And one thing we're always asked about and what keeps people coming back to our page is our breakup that happened over a year ago. And our recent post just kind of like upticked that back up. And so what we decided to do is talk a little bit more about it. Of course, with more time, we have the space and the time to get clear and to really reflect on what was really going on, what caused us to break up. We got some new realizations that we would like to share with you guys. What was our biggest takeaway? What was happening during that time that could have been just avoidable? So that's what we're getting into today. Yeah. If you are new here, once again, come on in, ask us questions in the chat. We're going to try to be reading through the comment section. If we don't get to your question or comment, then just be patient and stay to the end. We'll make sure we'll get to it.
Yeah. One thing that we're really excited about, and the reason why we're coming on here on live, is because the main reason why we broke up is the reason why we are hosting a retreat.
Yes, we are hosting our retreat in Costa Rica this August, at the end of August.
Yeah.
And we got a special offer for you, so make sure you stay to the end to hear that offer. But we have spaces available. This emotional recharge retreat was inspired by our breakup. Many couples, many individuals have experienced just not being able to regulate their emotions.
Exhaustion, frustration, whether it's in their relationships, whether it's in your job, whether it's just in life with where you are, your own expectations and not meeting them. A lot of that weighs on your daily ins and outs, and
it can weigh so much on your relationship, and it can weigh so much on just you and the people that are around you. So in this live, we're going to break down what we wish we would have done, what we wish we would have known,
the mistakes we made along the way,
to keep us from breaking up, to keep us from departing from each other, which actually we learned a lot during that time. So again, we actually broke up last January, where I moved back home to Houston and Natalie stayed in Florida. And we maintained communication. We did not talk to anyone else. We knew we wanted to come back together, but there were some moments where we realized, hey, we don't want to communicate because we need to figure some things out, or we don't want to live together because we need to figure some things out. We need to figure out our expectations we have for each other. We need to figure out what is the root cause.
Yeah.
So some people may be in that moment right now and just really need a little bit of support to keep their relationship going.
I think in my experience at that time, it was almost like a nervous breakdown. I feel like even just your presence sometimes just reminded me of where I lacked and I did not have the bandwidth or the capacity to be able to meet you in what you needed and barely be able to meet myself in what I needed.
Yeah.
And so, I think that the first thing I want to talk about is what were the mistakes that we made in that realm.
Okay, so the first mistake we made was the biggest thing on my part was rushing to a solution. I am a solution-oriented person. I'm like, oh, here's the problem, let's fix it right away. And what I had to learn with being while being in this relationship with my partner is I was adding a lot of pressure on her to come up with answers and come up with solutions. Like, what's wrong? Why are you feeling like that? Well, why'd you make that face? How come we can't do this? And she became so overwhelmed and just like, I don't know. Imagine that piling on for 3.5 years. Then it kind of just came to a head. And again, this was a pile on, so that's not the only thing. But that was the first thing that I realized, wow, I need to kind of chill out on. It's okay to be solution oriented, but the second thing is not allowing time and space for Natalie and I to come up with this solution together.
Yeah, I think that because you are so solution oriented, and this is something that I've learned about Lauren, is that her goal is to be able to snuggle and to kiss and to lovey-dove at night.
Yeah.
And if we're not in that space to do that by the end of the night, it's a problem.
Yeah, like who wants to have that lingering in, like when we have issues, it lingers throughout the night and throughout the next morning. And I'm super chill. I'm moody, but not really. But I can get it back together. I'm like a dude. You know how dudes fight, and then at the end of a fight, they're ready to dap up and be like, all right, I'm good. I learned that from my environment. So I don't hold grudges, and things don't have to last for a long time. So I'm like, all right, let's get back to kissing and cuddling and stuff. Like, what's the problem?
And I think that that's where we also differed a lot, is that you can compartmentalize and be like, all right, we're over that hump. Boom, we're good. Whereas for me, myself, I'm like, I'm still feeling. Like, I'm still in it.
Yeah.
And there wasn't the space. I felt like I didn't have the space to just be. And we're going to talk about this later, but I've realized that the way that I grew up and the way that emotions were handled in my childhood home is the way that I was approaching emotion in this relationship. And that is where a lot of our conflicts, when you're solution oriented and I just want to avoid, that is where conflict happens.
And that's where expectations get shined a light on too. Like, we both realized we had different expectations. So let's review really fast. If you're just coming in, biggest mistakes which led to our breakup, which people are going through right now. So me being a solution-oriented person, I was rushing to a solution. Someone said in the comments, family members say, hey, you never go to bed mad.
Yeah.
That was my sentiment too. But I've learned throughout this ever-evolving relationship that it is sometimes okay to let there be space if it's for the benefit of your relationship. Again, every relationship is different. Second thing is allow time. Allow time and space for each other or whoever's involved to regulate those emotions. And we're getting closer to how and what steps to help you regulate your emotions, so make sure you stay.
Yeah, the third thing for me that it was always a problem for me is because I am a talker, and I want to feel like I'm understood. And so the way that I do that is I will explain. But her, on the other hand, she likes the Cliff Notes version. She likes the condensed version of what I'm trying to say, because her brain is like, I would say, like a squirrel. You're like, point A, point B, but point C. If you don't say A, B, C in a short period of time, I'm lost.
Yeah.
So one thing that was always happening is that I would be trying to speak and talk where she would be like, all right, I got it. What's next?
Let me just interject. I'm learning a lot through TikTok. I realized that I am more than likely neurodivergent. And I think that I'm on the spectrum of some type of autism in just the way that my brain works. And so we're navigating that on top of other things. So I've been learning to teach myself patience and to teach myself and to let her in on, all right, baby, I'm getting a little squirrel here. All right, help me out. I'm sorry for interjecting. So I'm making sure that we're communicating and telling each other what is happening behind the scenes, because again, it's so much happening with two different individuals.
Yeah. And if you're the person that just wants to be heard and understood, and you feel like you keep getting cut off, or somebody's like, I just got it. If you don't have somebody like repeating back to you what it is that they're understanding, then it's going to feel like you're not understood, which is going to build up the frustration. And that is the key. That is probably one of the biggest things that really riled me up, is like, I never feel heard. I never feel seen. In this space.
Yeah. So the next thing that was a huge mistake that we were making that led to our breakup was the need to be right. Oh my gosh, I'm guilty, because I learned this from my parents, is that a kid stay in a kid's place. I'm right. And when you are taught that, your defense mechanisms build, and you're like, well, I'm a find a way for me to be right. You're gonna listen to me. And so I realized that wasn't working in our relationship. The need to always be right. Oh my gosh, I'm glad someone talked about that Amanda Seals in Club Shay Shay interview. But that was an amazing interview. If you haven't checked it out, go and watch how Amanda Seals emotionally regulated through that whole interview. But anyway, let's get back to the topic.
Yeah, I'll also tag in that Amanda Seals and Lauren are very similar in terms of like how direct you are, how opinionated and open and
passionate we are, and very like straight. And again, she mentioned how she was neurodivergent and on the autism spectrum, which is underdiagnosed in the Black community, in just a lot of communities, but minorities. I've realized that I haven't been tested, but I realized that we were so similar.
So I want to piggyback off of what you're saying. What we just highlighted is because she's so direct, because she's so passionate, because she's so like, this is what is the problem, or this is what, you know, she wants to tackle it straight on. As someone like myself who has been taught to be very passive in dealing with things, or not really even ever dealing with things, just allowing time and space for the emotion or the situation to pass, being confronted with that was very difficult and frustrating for myself.
Imagine, I'm a teacher. Imagine teaching a new lesson to a group of children. Of course, you're like, oh, I don't know how to do this. So it's either rejection. Very seldom do you have a child. It's like, oh yes, let's tackle this right away. I don't know how to do timetables, but I'm ready. So with her and her reaction, it's just like, this is something new. I've never done this before. And plus I suck at it. So I don't want to do it.
Yeah. And then she's also a debater. Like, she's a natural debater. I don't want to argue about, she doesn't see it as arguing, but I see it as arguing.
I love the way you said debate and a disagreement. I think that there's so much health in a disagreement. I love what happens in your brain. When you study brains, I love what happens when the neurons fire off, when there are two different opinions happening. You don't ever want to always agree with people. So that's where I stand. That's what my brain is loving over here.
And my brain is like, mitigate the situation right now. Like, mitigate.
Peace.
Calm.
Peace. Avoid. Okay, just agree. And sometimes that can be very problematic because I want to hear her opinion. I want to, like, what do you feel? What do you, and she's like, why are you asking me all these questions? I don't know. I'm overwhelmed. Yada.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, what? Okay.
Yeah. And I think that in addition to, like, the last mistake that was made in terms of, like, why we broke up, it goes along with the need to be right, but also believing that like somebody, your partner or whoever it is, needs to change at the moment you identify something is
wrong or something is causing, friction. And so that's our last point. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the fifth thing that we realized that we were making a mistake in, or we needed to grow in, is thinking that just because the problem was pointed out does not mean that it needs to be immediately implemented.
Yeah.
And I'm an immediate implementer. I'm a self-starter and an immediate implementer. And I didn't know that I was navigating life with the expectation that other people need to be like me, that other people need to solve problems like me. And so in this relationship, I'm like, hold on, Lauren, this is actually causing issues. You can want to be right all you want, and you can think that things are supposed to go a certain way all you want, but here's this person that you love and that you're in front of, and it's actually causing more harm than good. Where's the compromise? And so that has been the biggest growth area, those 5 things.
Yeah, I think that there were many points in our relationship where all of these mistakes were highlighted, but I think that on my end, the pivotal point, when I knew that emotional regulation was at the root or the cause that was conflicting for us both, is when I got to a point where I couldn't talk. I got to a point where I was so overwhelmed by what it was that I was feeling and experiencing in my body that everything within me shut down. I can't talk to my partner anymore. I can't meet her in the questions that she's asking. All my body and my brain is thinking about doing is getting up and leaving.
Yeah, run.
Yes, and that for me is my flight. You have the fight or flight response. My response is to fly out like as fast as possible.
Yeah.
And being with somebody who is so solution oriented and wants to tackle the issue right then and there, I was ignoring my own body's desire to go. And so I'm like putting myself in an environment where I was consistently being triggered, and it got to a point where I'm just like, I'm shaking.
Yeah.
I'm shaking. I'm overwhelmed. Like, I don't even know how to process what it is that I'm experiencing. I don't know how to talk to you about these things. I don't know where to move on from this point, because I feel like I'm doing everything in my power I know how to do.
Imagine 3.5 years of that going on, and of course you're just like, I'm at my wit's end. I don't have, at that time, we didn't have the tools. No one around us showed us these tools. We didn't have a relationship to look at. There were no relationships that were talking about the downs that come along with a healthy relationship. We could be healthy all we want, but we were still dealing with toxic traits and things that didn't help our relationship.
Yeah. I want to know how did you grow up dealing with emotions in your childhood home?
Yeah, how were you taught, directly or indirectly, of how did you learn to deal with your emotions?
Yeah. How were emotions expressed?
Yeah.
For me, I always
sorry.
Oh, sorry.
We want to hear your responses in the chat. So,
yes.
How did you deal with emotions in your household as you were growing up? And then we'll talk about ours, and we'll come back to the comments.
Yeah, Trisha says everyone can't be honest and open about their feelings and admit that they may be at fault. It's true. One of the things that I'm also learning is that accountability is probably the hardest thing for humans to accept and to admit to, because admitting to it means that you have to look at yourself as doing something wrong. Nobody wants to see or believe that they're doing anything wrong.
Yeah, our society is not set up that way. If you think about it, I am a teacher, been teaching for 10 plus years, and how I learned to teach and how I was a student, in school system is I was embarrassed. Like when you are wrong, first of all, you're embarrassed. You don't want to be wrong in front of anybody else. And it's very hard. We're not set up to say, you know what, I was wrong. In my classroom, I've learned from other teachers to celebrate that someone even tried, that someone even had the courage enough to just try. And even if you didn't get it right, I'm going to celebrate you because of your effort. And so if you just think about in all the stages of our lives, we aren't taught to take accountability. And I want to go back to that comment that says people can't be honest about their feelings. I feel like people don't feel safe to be honest about their feelings. Mm-hmm. And then you are capable, and that's what this live is about, because we actually learn some tools to where we can be honest about our feelings. Mm-hmm. Meet Me on the Moon said the way that they learned to deal with their emotions in their household was avoid and rage. That is the most common way that I've seen from being at my friend's house. It wasn't the way I was taught and the way that we did it, but that was the most common thing, is avoid and rage. Yeah. And to blow up. And I want to correct myself. Actually, my dad was the one who did the rage part. Mm-hmm. I was actually, when we broke up and I moved back home, I moved back with my parents. And I was actually driving one of my dad's cars, and I actually spilled some water in the passenger seat. And when I picked him up, he got into the passenger seat and he just blew up. Background, he is a mechanic and he works on cars, and that is his pride, and he finds a lot of value in cars being clean and blah blah blah. So he got in the car, he's like, I just cleaned this car, why do you have water in it? And mind you, I'm 30 plus years old. He yelling at me like I'm 12 years old. And I looked at it and I was like, wow, I am not dealing with my father who is almost 60. I'm dealing with a 15-year-old who is upset because his toy is messed up. And I said, Dad, how would you like for me to fix this? And I was so calm, and I didn't yell back at him like I would have. And he was just like, well, why is the water? He just kept going on and on and on. And I was just like, wow, this is the way he deals with disappointment, or this is the way he deals with any type of uncomfortable emotion. And that's very common. My mom, on the other hand, is very calm. My mom, on the other hand, is very opposite. She's passive. She's learning how to deal with things more direct because she has an oldest daughter who is learning and pushes her, and we're very close. Mm-hmm. But that's how I learned. And indirectly, I learned from my dad how not to be. And then I learned from my own experiences how to be and what works for me.
Yeah. For me, I through this relationship, it becomes more and more clear to me that I learned how to not be with my emotions. I learned that if there was a conflict or somebody was upset, that it was my fault. And so I hold a lot of guilt. I hold a lot of shame, and I feel bad, and I internalize that. And the only thing I know how to do, and the only way that I was able to cope with that feeling when I was young, was to go to my room and allow time for it to dissipate. Mm-hmm. It was never something that we talked about again. It was nothing that anybody took accountability for. If there was some kind of mistake, like, oh, Natalie, I'm sorry, I yelled at you about this.
Yeah, it was actually my fault. It wasn't your fault. It was none of that.
Never any accountability. There was never any revisit. Never any like, hey, let's talk about what happened. It was always just me, myself, and just trying to get through what I was feeling. And so that bleeds into our relationship, because that's the only way I know how to handle difficult and uncomfortable emotions, especially when it comes to guilt and shame, especially when it comes to you coming to me and asking me or saying like, hey, Natalie, I'm recognizing that this is where you're falling short, and I need you to step up to the plate because I feel like I'm holding a lot. And I walk away from that conversation believing that I'm not enough, believing that I'm doing something wrong or that I am bad. And then I go into that emotional cycle of wanting to be away, wanting to shut down, wanting to just get through the uncomfortability of that feeling.
And that actually led to you, I know we talked about this before, but that led to you not being able to hold yourself accountable or take criticism in any type of way. Maybe it's not like, hey, not negative criticism, but just any type where, hey, you're falling short. And that stemmed from the way that you guys express yourselves.
I really feel like that, the inability to take criticism, and then the high expectations I place on myself, and the heaviness of the guilt and the shame that I have, is the reason why I quit my job and was like, I'm not doing corporate ever again. Yeah. I really feel like that is the core of it.
Let me get you over here. Oh, sorry. But yeah, so I do want to make sure people heard the question, because I'm really interested. How was it for you growing up? How did you express your emotions? Are there healthy ways you guys express your emotions
growing up?
Yeah, or were there unhealthy ways that bled into your adulthood, and you're realizing this is not working for me, or maybe this is working for me? Mm-hmm. In my house, there was a lot of communication. Not with my dad, because my dad kind of shied away from being the parent. It was usually my mom, and we had a lot of conversations. She tells me all the time, like, wow, like the conversations you're able to have with your mom, I didn't have that. Yeah. Like, I get to say if something rubs me the wrong way. I get to hold my mom accountable if she's not holding up to the things that she taught us. Yeah. And that's not the case all the time in other people's households. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Emotions are simply energy in motion. That's it. Mm-hmm. Whether you're a guy, whether you're a girl, whether you're non-binary, you have emotions, which means there is energy. Energy cannot be destroyed or created. We literally just pass it along. Mm-hmm. And so when someone else is having a bad day, guess what? We absorb that energy, and what do we do with it? well, you just gave me energy that I don't know what to do with, and it didn't come from me. But now it's filtering through my mind, it's filtering through my body, and it's manifesting in ways that I don't know how to deal with. And that I wish, as an educator, I wish that I was teaching emotional regulation more so than math. I wish that I was teaching emotional regulation because it is so needed. My students didn't need to go to PASS because they flipped out. They didn't need to go to detention or after school detention, or, we don't need to kick kids out because they don't know how to deal with all this energy that's in motion. Mm-hmm. We need to teach ourselves this so that we don't, a lot of people in the chat right now, I don't know if you have kids, but what we do, not what we say, but what we do and how we be in this world, our kids are watching. Mm-hmm. Whether it's ours, it's our niece, our nephew, our kids are watching us, and they carry on through adulthood not by what you say, but what you do. Yeah. And what I think my dad failed to realize is I'm watching you. Not I'm hearing you, but I'm watching you. I'm a very observant person, and that goes for all of us. I feel like the reason we're having this live and the reason we're having this retreat, this emotional healing retreat, is I'm taking back, and I'm inviting you guys to take back responsibility to say, I'm going to learn how to identify my emotions, understand how it feels in my body, and I'm going to learn how to communicate my emotions, whether they have room for it or not. I'm going to learn how to communicate my emotions because that is a fundamental part of being a human. Mm-hmm. It is not something, a woo-woo thing. It's not a new thing. You may hear people talking about it now, but this can carry on as a generational curse. You think that, your parents or your grandparents are dealing with these ailments and chronic illnesses, but did you know that these chronic illnesses are energies that didn't get to filter? They're emotions that got stuck in the body and didn't get to filter out. Mm-hmm. And now you label your grandmother as a bitter old woman, or she always mean, or no, these are grown people who didn't know how to deal with their emotions, and they're passing it along through their generation. Yeah. How many people want to learn something different? Mm-hmm. Deal with their emotions in a different way. Stop sending long paragraphs to people who don't have space for you.
Yeah. I think it's important to understand the connection between your mind and your body, because those are two of the same things. When we talk about the emotions that we are feeling, emotions are literally, they manifest in your body. Mm-hmm. When you're scared, what do? You probably, or anxious, you're probably shaking. For me, when I feel guilt or shame, I feel a pain, like a deep drop in my stomach. Mm-hmm. When I'm feeling stressed or anxious as well, I get tense up here. Mm-hmm. How is this energy, these emotions showing up in your body, and for how long are you going to hold on to not processing these things?
Yeah, did you know when you don't process emotions, depending on the emotion, you may eat more. You may eat certain foods, more salty foods because you can't deal with stress, more sugary foods because you're anxious all the time. Everything is connected. They're not separated, yeah. But we've learned how to deal with the symptom, but not deal with the actual root.
Yes.
And you're not going to get it from modern day medicine.
Yeah.
So it's up to us, and I'm glad that we're in spaces like this to talk about this, because we're not going to learn this in school.
Yeah.
I quit education in the formal way because they weren't teaching what I needed my students to learn. And when my future children come up, I want them to know this part. And go ahead.
I was going to say the most instrumental tools that we have implemented within our relationship, not just our relationship, but how we interact with the world. I think one is being able to, first of all, just identify what emotion you're feeling. Trisha says, my chest hurts physically when I'm hurt. So knowing that in your body, you're feeling this way, and you're able to identify, okay, I'm feeling hurt. What about me? Why am I feeling hurt? Mm-hmm. What is the underlying root? Am I feeling hurt because I feel shameful? Am I feeling hurt because
I'm disappointed?
Am I feeling hurt because how dare they believe that I do something like that? They don't believe me.
Yeah, the other day you asked me what my emotion was, and I didn't even know it until she asked me all these why questions. And I want to pinpoint that you don't have to know why. Just being able to identify. A lot of us are ignoring what we feel in our bodies. And then we go to the doctor and we get ibuprofen or we get Lexapro or whatever.
Put a Band-Aid.
To put a Band-Aid over it. But I realized the other day when I was talking to Natalie, it's like, actually, I feel lonely. I feel lonely in this. And when we are able to identify that we feel lonely, guess what she wants to do? Like, dang, okay, you feel lonely. Let me switch over from I want to be right and I want to interject and cut you off. Let me
put my defenses down.
Yeah.
And I want to meet you at this.
I don't want my partner to feel lonely.
I care about you so much that you should never feel lonely in this relationship.
Yeah.
That is the key importance when you're able to truly identify what emotion you're feeling and you can communicate that to your partner instead of being petty like I was the other week or being defensive or projecting. When you're able to be like, you know what? I don't like when you do that because it makes me feel like I'm by myself.
Yeah. We've gotten so good at this now that we're post-breakup and we're back together and we're back living together. Now we've gotten to the point where I'm like, baby, I heard what you said, but let me dig a little deeper. I said, I hear that you asked this of me, but I feel like there's an emotion hiding in there. Is there anything else you want to communicate so we can get to the bottom of? I've gotten to the point where I'm like, okay, I'm not going to even bite the little bait she has for me. She wants me to, maybe you don't want me to get riled up, but you know, your shadow self may want to be spiteful. And I'm like, baby, what's going on? You asked me to do this, but what's really underneath this? And then she realized, you know, baby, I'm being petty. I'm being resentful because X, Y, and Z, right? And you're right, likable one. Communication is key. But I want to add a little extra in there. Effective communication is key. Effective communication is key.
Active listening
is
key.
Is key. And that's what we're going to be talking about in this emotional healing retreat. There are a lot of components that you're going to get. Imagine just 1 week spending with us and talking with other individuals who are at the stage you're at, or maybe a little bit higher or maybe a little bit lower. You get to go home after spending a week with us in Costa Rica and after getting real-time feedback and understanding, like, this is what I do. What can I do differently to get a different response? Imagine if you are the one that to change, you'll get a different response from the people around you. So the last part of this, before we close up, is we're going to get into the key emotional tools that we have implemented since being back together and what we learned while we broke up. So we just told you 5 things that we were doing, which is cutting each other off, not allowing for regulation, rushing to the solution,
the needing to be right.
The needing to be right. Those things weren't working. Maybe it's working for you, but those things were not working for us. And so we switched and we decided to implement these tools. So make sure you write these down. We're not going to go too deep because, of course, we got to save some good stuff for the retreat. So make sure you click the links in our bio so that you can get this good stuff, okay?
So we've already talked about 1, identifying the emotion that you're actually feeling. 2 is communication, specifically active communication.
I'm so sorry. I want to thank Chris.
Christmas time.
There we go. I want to thank Christmas time for the badge. We really, really appreciate it. It's actually our first badge.
Yeah.
I forgot that the thing was there. So I want to encourage you guys, if you click that little button, we'll see what the badge does. I have no idea, but I appreciate it so much.
Yes. The last tool that we really have implemented in our relationship is the allowing of space and time.
What does that look like? So I used to rush you. So what do we do now?
So for me, it's first of all understanding what it is that I need, especially when I get to a point where I can't talk. If I can't talk, nothing's going to happen. So I need to know that I need to be able to step away for a short period of time for me to be able to come back to you. So what I do is I come to you, I'll say like, hey, I don't have capacity for this conversation right now. I need an hour. I need 30 minutes.
And she don't say it rudely. I can see already in her face. It takes some maturity to get here, but I can see already in her face and in her body language that she may not have capacity. And no matter how I want to get to the solution, I'm like, all right, I'm going to give you some space. So she'll say, I'm going for a walk. Give me about... Actually, this is two components. She is very good now to say, I actually don't have capacity for this. I can feel some things manifesting in my body. Give me some time to regulate. And the second thing that we're working on right now is... What's the second thing? You remember? Hence, we're still working on it. But the second thing is, since I want to get to the solution, I would love for you to say... give me about an hour. I need a time.
Yeah,
you said it. That. Give me a time in which you're gonna come back and talk to me. So give me about an hour, and I'd be like, okay, cool. Yeah, we're gonna solve this in about an hour. Let me go handle my business.
Yeah, I think that was something that was missing, because I would be the person that'd be like, I can't do this right now, and go.
And I'm like, well, when we gonna talk about it? We never come back to it. And then I'm just adding fuel to the fire. But it's worked out for us where I can give her time to regulate, and she gives me a time that we can come back to it. And I'm like, okay, good. I'm good, okay?
Yeah. So those are the three things that we've really implemented that has helped us. You can do this whether it's in your relationship. You can do this within your friendships. You can do this within your work relationships as well, because trust and believe, you definitely need these tools at work.
Yeah, I guess.
So let's talk about why we created the retreat based around emotional healing.
All right. When a lot of people are reaching out to us, whether it's couples or individuals, it's either individuals just say, hey, I just broke up this relationship, or I'm in this relationship and I don't know how to hold on, or I'm in the healthiest relationship I've ever been in, but there's still some toxic traits that I need help getting through. And especially in this community, especially in this queer black community, there is not a lot of
spaces
and examples. And what we're intentional about is creating this safe space. So at our retreat, we're going to be teaching how to identify your emotion, right? There's several emotions. You can say I'm frustrated. You can say I'm feeling lonely. That's the first step. Sometimes we go straight to reaction mode, and we haven't even dealt with that there's resentment there, right? And where is it coming from? So the first step that we're going to be learning about is identifying the emotion. Then learning to sit with it. What did you say that meant when you're sitting with the emotion?
Yeah, when you're sitting with the emotion, it means to accept what it is that you are feeling, rather than trying to run from it or distract from it. To accept and let it be okay that it is what you're feeling, and to just allow yourself to be with it.
Yeah, you can even sit. I never thought about this, but I wonder what it's like to sit a timer. You know, set an hour timer and get your journal out and just rage on your notebook and just I just feel it can say all, and it, you right, Trisha, it is nothing we're saying here is easy. It's easy said than done. And hence why we broke up, because it's hard as fuck. But just give yourself an hour to sit in that uncomfortable emotion. Because that's energy there and it needs to flow out. So way that it can flow out is rage on your notebook. Or if you want to cry, let them tears fall on a notebook and just put it all out. Because what I notice I do, and what she does too, is, why am I feeling like this? I don't want to feel like this, and this and this and that. And we run and we don't let it sit and let it and accept it.
And we automatically label certain emotions as bad or negative because it makes us feel a certain way, or it makes us react a way, like crying or feeling heavy. We don't like that feeling. We don't want to feel that way. And so we're trying to escape it every moment that we can escape it. But being able to sit and accept those emotions as being just the same as being happy and excited, or being sad and low, it is okay. I think that with our retreat, I'm so excited with the activities that we have planned. First of all, we have some adventurous stuff, like we're going to be doing.
We're not going to be sitting still.
No.
Go ahead.
We'll be zip lining. We'll be hiking volcanoes. Like it's going to be a lot of fun, but we're putting ourselves and our guests in positions where we are challenging them emotionally.
And we actively ask you, how is this making you feel? What came up in this activity? What did you automatically want to do, like out of habit? What did you have to challenge yourself to do? What's something new that came up that hasn't come up before?
And then from there, we are also we're hosting our own workshop centered around emotional regulation.
Starting with yoga and stretching, because we're learning how to move our bodies. Sitting with the emotion and accepting the emotion also means move the body, get it out. Whether it's through dance, whether it's through song, whether it's through stretching, exercising, running. Maybe you don't have these tools in your regimen yet, but we're going to teach you how to implement these into your regimen, into your routine.
We're also going to be partnering with a local facilitator, and she specializes in a traditional modality called cacao ceremony. So she's going to be performing a cacao ceremony where I don't know how to properly explain this experience.
Cacao is a plant medicine that has a little psychedelic effect to it, but what it does is open up your heart chakra. It opens up the let's just say it allows your emotions to flow. I'm really good at holding my emotions, but imagine a plant medicine helping you to release. And what's important is you're in a safe space. You don't have people that's going to judge you. You don't have people that's going to yell at you. But this is for individuals, couples, whoever. You don't even have to be affiliated with a relationship to come. We are inviting this to everybody because, like I said, I wish my students learned how to emotionally regulate, how to properly communicate their emotions, right? So yeah, cacao is a plant medicine that allows you to open up that heart chakra and release what has been maybe stored in there, not from you, but from generations before you, from past lives, from whatever you believe in, but they are stored.
Trisha, this retreat is for individuals and couples.
Yes.
So we have spaces for where you can actually share a room with other individuals. We have private rooms if you want to have your own private room, or if you want to bring a friend and share a private room where you'll have your own bedroom and your own bathroom. It's a beautiful luxury accommodation. We actually have 2 accommodations that we're going to be staying at. One accommodation is in the jungle, the Costa Rican jungle, off the it's lakefront property. Beautiful. We have
volcanoes, mountains right outside the window.
Our second location is closer to the beach, and we have just so many exciting activities planned for our emotional recharge retreat. So please make sure you check out the link in our bios to learn more and to register.
The retreat is August 31st through September 5th, okay? So that's 6 days, 5 nights, and all of this is included. So if you are interested, whether you're single, whether you're a couple, whether you're 20, 21, or all the way up to 60, it doesn't matter. We want to invite you.
This is an investment within yourself. This is an investment for your future. This is an investment for generations that come after you.
If you're here, you understand what came before you, all the generational curses that has been passed along to you, and now you're taking responsibility to learn something different and to do something different. I don't want my kids learning what I had to learn. I want them to thank me for learning how to emotionally regulate, to thank me to learning how to be self-aware and learning how to effectively communicate and learning how to just heal the unhealed parts of myself.